welcome back to Let's Talk Physical Media. I am your host, John. This is the weekly news show where we talk about everything in the world of physical media and sometimes just regular old-fashioned film. And it was a very busy week in the world of physical media, so I'm not going to waste any time on top. We're going to dive right into the news because Scream and Shout Factory announced their May releases, and there's a lot of big stuff in there, including Scent of a Woman coming to 4K Blu-ray. This is the movie that Al Pacino actually won his Academy Award for. Not for The Godfather, not for The Godfather Part 2, not Dog Day Afternoon, not Scarface. Nope, it was for Scent of a Woman when he started woo-haing in the 1990s.
Wow. Hoo-ah.
This is the film, if you've been watching the channel for a good amount of time, you know I complain about that. This is the year that Denzel Washington played Malcolm X in the movie Malcolm X, directed by Spike Lee, in a Spike Lee joint. And I believe that is still Denzel Washington's best performance. Denzel Washington is a two-time Academy Award winner for Glory and Training Day, but his best performance was in Malcolm X. And unfortunately, because the Academy just loves to give out makeup Oscars and not award the actors when they actually earn these Academy Awards, back in the 1970s, Al Pacino just kept getting the shaft and they wouldn't give him the Academy Award despite the fact that he was giving out great performance after great performance. Well, finally, they made it up to him for Scent of a Woman, which was like a good story at the time, has a good cast, but not many people today talk about Scent of a Woman. But you know what? You'll be able to get it on 4K Blu-ray in May from Shout Factory, so that's pretty cool. Maybe people want to revisit it. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating it. It's still a really good performance. It's just kind of like the next chapter of Al Pacino's career getting started, the 1990s Al Pacino, where it's a little bit more over-exaggerated, overacting. It works in some films. Look at Heat. Heat's a 1990s masterpiece. I love Carlito's Way, which, you know, he does kind of, reel it in for Carlito's Way, but still, throughout the 1990s, he almost becomes like a caricature of himself. But hey, it's Al Pacino. He deserves an Academy Award, and at least the guy got one. Another one coming to 4K Blu-ray is Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. I know a lot of people are excited about this one coming to 4K Blu-ray, so I'm really happy for those people. What Lies Beneath is also going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. This one stars Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford. And this is a great film from the early 2000s, and this is a funny story. If you guys remember the film Castaway, Robert Zemeckis directed that film. Well, in between, because Tom Hanks, he's kind of heavier in the beginning of the film, and then, of course, he gets stuck on an island by himself. He's going to lose a lot of weight, so while he lost that weight and grew out his beard, Robert Zemeckis just went ahead and made What Lies Beneath, starring Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford. Just, a very good movie from the 2000s that's actually getting a lot more appreciation. I remember when Harrison Ford was starring in Indiana Jones and The Dial of Destiny a couple years ago, people were doing rankings of Harrison Ford films, and that movie kept showing up, so that's actually got some legs. It's kind of getting a pretty big cult following, and hey, now we'll be able to check it out on 4K Blu-ray. And then also the colors with it is going to be coming to Blu-ray and Steelbook. I'm not too familiar with this. And then the one that I'm really excited about, Blaxploitation Classics Volume 1. So this is pretty cool. We get a nice big 4K Blu-ray collection of some of the best blaxploitation films, and obviously it's labeled Volume 1. That means that we'll probably get like Volume 2 and 3 sometime down the road. They didn't put Foxy Brown in here, which leads me to believe that's probably coming in another pack to help sell that, because this has got some big heavy hitters. My favorite blaxploitation film is actually in this, which I talked about earlier this year on a Q&A show, and that film is Coffee, starring Pam Grier. It's not the only film in here starring Pam Grier, but that's one of my favorite Pam Grier performances is in that film. I think she is phenomenal in Coffee. That also has a huge inspiration on Jackie Brown, like a lot of these films do. Of course, Across 110th Street is in here. You can see that in the opening credits of Jackie Brown, the song Across 110th Street. Black Caesar's in here. Hell Up in Harlem. Sheba Baby. And Truck Turner. So pretty good amount of films. I'm really excited for this one. This is probably going to be a day one purchase for me. It's probably going to cost a pretty penny, so I'm going to have to, get it from Shout Factory's website. Luckily, they do shop pay, so I could pay it for it in installments, and I'll probably get that and What Lies Beneath. I'm not going to get Scent of a Woman just yet on 4K Blu-ray. That's like a sale kind of film for me, just because I'm not hugely in love with it. That's like every once in a while watch. I kind of just appreciate the fact that that's the film that won Al Pacino his Oscar, but again, you know how I feel about that. So some great announcements for May from Scream and Shout Factory. What are you guys most excited about? We also got confirmation for something that we talked about last week, which is LIONSGATE Limited is going to be bringing The King of New York to 4K Blu-ray here in the United States. They made sure to even note that this is the same exact scan from Arrow Video, so we're not going to be receiving any upgrades, I assume. We'll have to wait and see, but either way, I don't own The King of New York on 4K Blu-ray, so I'll probably end up grabbing this one. They also announced the re-release of Basic Instinct on 4K Steelbook, so if you didn't pick up Basic Instinct a few years ago from Paul Verhoeven that stars Sharon Stone, probably in her most famous performance, I don't know, if this or Casino, one of them is definitely her most famous performance, but her crossing her legs in Basic Instinct is like one of those key scenes of the 1990s. So both of those are going to be coming officially in April from Lionsgate Limited. And then also this week, Kino Lorber announced that they're going to be bringing some great comedies to 4K Blu-ray sometime in the future. Wayne's World 2 and Kingpin. And I believe they also announced that they're going to be giving us Robert Altman's Popeye on 4K Blu-ray as well. And that film stars Robin Williams and Shelley Duvall. I saw some people saying that this was Robert Altman's best film. People might not realize this, but when Popeye came out in the 1980s, actually it was 1980, that film was like considered a failure. Robin Williams really didn't get to kickstart his film career for a few more years because of the failure of Popeye, which is a real shame because it's actually a pretty good movie, but it's not Robert Altman's best film, so it's cool to see that getting that 4K Blu-ray release. Also, Wayne's World 2 coming to 4K Blu-ray from Kino Lorber, which does suck a little bit. I mean, Kino Lorber will do a pretty good job, I'm sure, but the original Wayne's World came in this 4K Steelbook. I remember a couple years ago saying, why didn't we get Wayne's World 2 packed in there? I guess Paramount doesn't see the dollar signs in Wayne's World? I don't really know, because Wayne's World is a fantastic 4K Blu-ray. It's a fantastic film, and Wayne's World 2, while not as good as the original Wayne's World, it's still a really funny movie. I really love Wayne stock, so I'm pretty excited for Wayne's World 2. And then another one, the Farrelly Brothers follow-up to Dumb and Dumber Kingpin from, I believe, 1996, starring Woody Harrelson, Bill Murray, and Randy Quaid. One of my favorite comedies of the 1990s, just because Bill Murray plays Ernie McCracken, one of the best characters of the 1990s. He's such an asshole, but he's so funny in that movie and the way he screwed over Woody Harrelson. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Kingpin is going to also be coming to 4K Blu-ray. So Kino Lorber is really concentrating on comedy. They also announced, I believe last year, and I hope these are coming out sometime in like June or July, with July 25th being Happy Gilmore 2's release date. They said that they're going to be doing Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore on 4K Blu-ray, so now you throw in Kingpin, Wayne's World 2, they're really concentrating on comedy, which is something that we've been asking for here on the channel. We got Uncle Buck earlier this year. Tommy Boy comes out at the end of March, so I'm glad to see the 4K Blu-ray format is finally committing itself to giving us great comedies on 4K Blu-ray, because I feel like that was always the one that got the shaft, because a lot of people, including myself, I'm guilty of this as well, don't see the need to upgrade comedies from Blu-ray to 4K Blu-ray, but we have seen some great comedies come to 4K Blu-ray in really high quality, so what are we complaining for? So it's pretty cool to see some new ones coming to 4K Blu-ray as well. And Sean Baker coming off the 4 Academy Awards, tying Walt Disney for the most Academy Awards ever won at one Academy Awards ceremony this past week for, Anora winning Best Picture. He also won Best Director, Best Editor, and Best Screenplay, so congratulations to Sean Baker. One of his other most famous films is The Florida Project, and Second Sight, and obviously piggybacking off of Sean Baker's recent success with Anora, decided to announce that The Florida Project, probably one of his other most famous films, if not his most famous other film other than Anora, sorry Red Rocket, but either way, The Florida Project, a very popular film starring Willem Dafoe, that is going to be getting a Second Sight 4K Blu-ray release sometime this year. They tipped that off over there on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Pretty cool to see that movie getting a 4K Blu-ray release. It's a beautiful looking Florida burnt film, so I'm definitely looking forward to that one coming to 4K Blu-ray as well. Another one that I'm sure a lot of people are excited about, can't say I'm honestly too excited about this, but 2001's A Knight's Tale is going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. This one stars Heath Ledger in one of his most famous performances. Also, this is probably where a lot of people who didn't know Paul Bettany before the MCU, before he played Vision, might not realize Paul Bettany's in this movie as well. I also love Paul Bettany in Master and Commander Far Side of the World. But either way, this movie, A Knight's Tale, is going to be getting a 4K Steelbook release. So if you're a fan of A Knight's Tale, that's getting a 4K Steelbook release. We also got our look at The Monkey on 4K Steelbook. I told you guys in my Monkey review, if you guys are channel members, the thing about The Monkey is I didn't love it 100% the first time I saw it, but I gotta be honest, just like Oz Perkins' last film, Longlegs, the movie is like really stuck with me, and I actually think I'm gonna really enjoy it on rewatch like I did with Longlegs, so I might actually end up grabbing this 4K Steelbook, even though I'm not the biggest Steelbook guy. This one's actually a pretty nice looking one. It's very simple, but I think it fits the style of the film, and like I said in my review, it's very similar to Needful Things, where it's like a very fun Stephen King adaptation. It's not something that's supposed to be taken too seriously. You watch it and you have a good time. And The Monkey's such an over-the-top gore fest. I think you'll have an absolute blast with it if you haven't seen it yet. And I might end up grabbing this 4K Steelbook And one other minor thing is that Vestron Films is supposedly working on some new films coming to them from Blu-ray, and they also are thinking about dipping their toe into 4K Blu-ray, but nothing has been confirmed yet. But apparently, this is just rumors at this point, that's why I put it at the end of the show. Apparently, though, if this film does come to 4K Blu-ray, it's going to be a film that was already released internationally on 4K Blu-ray, from what I understand. Again, this information is very new, but I like Vestron Films, so I hope they do start making 4K Blu-rays. We'll just have to wait and see. And then the last thing I want to talk about before I get out of here today is that this rumor, because I'm just such a huge James Bond fan, and we've been talking about a little bit on this show, Let's Talk Physical Media, with the Broccoli family stepping back, Barbara Broccoli no longer being in charge of the James Bond franchise and all the creative direction of the James Bond franchise, now with it shifting over to Amazon. You know, a lot of us have been very worried, including myself, like petrified that this franchise is just going to be Disneyified by Amazon. Well, at least some of these rumors are pretty cool. You know, Christopher Nolan always wanted to make a James Bond film, and you could see it right in the bones of like movies like Tenet and Inception. Like, those are like glorified James Bond films, just kind of with a nice sci-fi twist on it. But, you know, they're wearing the suits. You know, these guys are involved in espionage. So, of course, you know, Christopher Nolan seems like the kind of guy who would love a James Bond film, and it's always been rumored that he wanted to direct one. Well, now the rumor is, and again, just a rumor, that Christopher Nolan is Amazon's first choice to be a director of the next James Bond film. So for people who are hoping that we go back to like the 1960s, I think Christopher Nolan would be a great director for this. In fact, I think he would be the perfect director for Amazon to hire, because name value alone will at least give people confidence that you know what you're doing with the James Bond franchise. And if you give him full creative control, we are trained to trust Christopher Nolan and that he won't do a bad job, because even Christopher Nolan's worst film is still a really good film. And I think if he tackles the James Bond franchise, it'll be very, very well done. So let's hope that rumor is true. My gut says probably not, if I'm being honest. That just feels like a rumor that pops up every now and again. It gains steam because people just love Christopher Nolan. But if Amazon at least can notice that going on, hopefully they reach out to Christopher Nolan and be like, hey, we'll back up the money bust here. Just give us Christopher Nolan's James Bond. And I think that's all we could really hope for. But again, we'll have to wait and see. I don't really put too much stock in this. I think it's still in the early days of Amazon having creative control of James Bond, and you know, probably a lot of think tanks going on, and we'll just have to wait and see and have our fingers crossed that they don't fumble the ball. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for me on another episode of Let's Talk Physical Media. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, guys, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like John Doe Juggalo, a director for the channel like Uncle V and Kevin Kruger, or even a bankroll member like Frank from Frank's Media Reviews and Mr. Smelly Potato, you guys can look for all that information in the description below. But as always, guys, if you got no money to throw away, don't you worry about it. We just hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.